Hi, Year 12s. Welcome to your first key concept or first unit of theory that we'll be covering. So just to start the year off, we're looking at the types of nutrients that we utilise when we're looking to get energy for physical performance. So there's the breakdown that we look at. What sort of foods and what they break down into. So if we look here, there's three types of nutrients that the body uses. We have carbohydrates, which is our first port of call. They're the easiest to break down. However, you can see that they only give 18 kilojoules of energy. And our fats, which is our second main source that we use, they actually give us the most kilojoules of energy per unit, but they are actually harder to break down. And then our protein, which is our third unit of energy, and that gives us as third sort of source of nutrients, and that gives us 24 kilojoules of energy when they broke down. So just before we get into carbohydrates, just be flicked between the presentation and the video, and I'll explain a little bit more to you in detail.
Energy is expressed in calories. By definition, 1 calorie is the amount of energy it takes
in Australia,
to
we use
raise
the
the
term
temperature
kilojoules.
of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. For convenience, we use calorie with an uppercase C, which actually refers to 1,000 calories, or 1 kilocalorie. To give you a better perspective, the average 8th grader needs 2,000 calories with an uppercase C, or 2,000 kilocalories, a day to stay alive. A gram of carbohydrates and a gram of protein both yield 4 calories, while a gram of fat yields 9 calories. Let's start with carbs.
So I don't mind, there's a bit of cutting back and forth for the video, but that's fine. That just gives you another voice and another perspective. When they talk about calories, we want to measure in kilojoules. So if you have an answer about what sort of kilojoule or units of energy that we can get from each source of nutrients, use the word the kilojoules, don't use calories, it's an American term. So we can see here, if we want to break down a carbohydrate, what is it? It's our first port of call for any sort of nutrient, and what that is stored as is called glycogen within the body. So if we do any high intensity activity, we use carbohydrates. And in our submaximal activities, we'd like to use carbohydrates because they're easy to break down. So we have a higher GI examples over here, so things like cornflakes or honey, and what they are is they're easy to break down. It can happen quickly, and that's what you see in activity. If people give you something sweet, something sugary, they're high GI, and then we have a lot low GI examples there, so things like rice, pasta, apple and yogurt. We'll just flick back to the video and they explain it in a little bit more detail.
Are easily digested and provide quick energy, which does not last very long. They taste sweet and are found in candies, pastries, and fruits, just to name a few.
So here we have simple carbohydrates being a high GI and complex carbohydrates being a low GI.
An example of this is starch, which can be found in bread, pasta, and cereal, just to name a few. Complex carbs provide longer lasting energy and take longer to digest because the body must break them down into simple sugars first. Bread, tortillas, rice, and sweet potatoes all contain complex carbs. Why exactly do you need to eat carbs? Well, your body needs carbs for energy. Carbs fuel your muscles for a big race, get your brain through a hard test, and keep your organs functioning. But make sure you choose your carbs wisely. Eat complex carbs rather than simple carbs, and choose fruits and veggies over processed foods such as candy and donuts. Replace white bread with wheat or whole grain bread, and white rice with brown rice.
So we can see here, if we look at the high GI, low GI, there's some examples of how they benefit us. So the high GI enter the body from the digestive system quickly. They're easy to digest and absorb in the body circulation within minutes, where the low GI ones, they enter more slowly and they're broken down first by digestive chemicals, but what they're better for is to use over longer periods of time. So if you were preparing for an event, you'd want load your body with carbohydrates. The more low GI, so they can be used over a long period of time, where the high GI carbohydrates are probably better within events, so that you can get them broken down quickly and restore that energy within that event. If we move on to now fats. So fats, we can see the important nutrient that contains a lot of energy. So what happens is when we don't use, if we have too many carbohydrates, they actually store as fats. And then when we want to break down fats, we can lose body mass by utilizing them as sources of energy. They can provide energy for an unlimited time through our aerobic system. However, we need oxygen to break it down. So we can't break down fat while we're working at a high intensity. We can only break down fat when we're working at submaximal intensity. You can see there the two fat sources, a high fat, things like butter, peanut butter, where low fat sources are olive oil, peanuts, fish. So they're the different types of fat that we put. We have the two types of fats, so the saturated fats that are found primarily in animal products, so things like beef, pork, egg, dairy, butter, cheese, things like that. And then polyunsaturated fats generally from plant sources, so like oils, margarine, and things like that.
Saturated fats and unsaturated fats. Saturated fats get their name because their carbon chains are saturated with as many hydrogen atoms as possible, while unsaturated fats have carbon chains that are not fully saturated with hydrogen atoms. How can you tell which fats are saturated and which are unsaturated? Since saturated fats have a straight chain structure, they can pack together into solids and can be found in butter, ice cream, and cake. Saturated fats can clog up blood vessels and cause heart disease. On the other hand, unsaturated fats have a bent carbon chain, so they cannot pack as closely together, making them liquids at room temperature, or oils. Naturally occurring unsaturated fats, such as those found in nuts, fish, and vegetable oil, are good for you. However, if they're constantly reused, such as the oil in French fry machines, the double bonds in the carbon chain flip from cis to trans. The result is trans fat, a type of fat that causes cancer and can be found in margarine, among others. Trans fat is also called partially hydrogenated vegetable oil. So if you see this in the ingredients, it contains trans fat. Cholesterol is another kind of...
Then the third type of nutrient is protein. So protein is mainly used for growth and repair. We can be used as an energy source during activity, but only extreme situations. So generally when our carbohydrates and our fats have been fully utilized, generally it becomes an extreme situation because when we're using protein, we tend to be breaking down muscle tissue. And you see at the end of long events like Ironman, triathlons, and things like that, in extreme weather conditions, that's when we start using. So in your sort of sporting experience, you'd be utilizing mainly carbohydrates, and then if you do any sort of long submaximal activity, you'd be utilizing some fats too. So if we're looking at protein sources, meat, chicken, fish, cheese, beef, tofu, eggs, nuts, and seeds. So there's your main type of protein intake. You can see here identifying nutrient use during exercise. So, if we're looking at like a submaximal, you can utilize a lot of fat. That's what if people want to look at weight loss, and do lots of walking. So long distance walking, submaximal effort, you tend to burn fat. Where like if you might do jogging, you might do a mixture of carbohydrates and fat. Or if you did lots of high intensity activity, you might look at burning some of that carbohydrate predominantly. Just one last piece of the video, just looking at protein.
I've heard that proteins are the building blocks of life. They make up your muscles and bones, allow red blood cells to transport oxygen throughout your body, help digest food, fight off diseases, and perform all sorts of important functions. Proteins are made up of amino acids. These amino acids combine in different ways to make many different proteins. There are 9 amino acids which the body can only get from food. These are called the essential amino acids. Chicken, fish, beef, milk, cheese, eggs, beans, tofu, and nuts are all protein-rich foods. Vegetables may be missing one or more essential amino acids, so if you're a vegetarian, make sure you eat a wide variety of protein-rich veggies. Animal meat and dairy products are good sources of protein because they contain all 9 essential amino acids. Americans eat more protein than they need, and many protein-rich meat and dairy products are often rich in fat as well. And as we've learned, too much fat can cause health problems. This is why...
Alright, so we've gone through the 3 main sources of nutrients there and the characteristics. So what you've got now will be, if you look in your emails, that'll have specifically what questions that you need to do in your essentials guide, and there will be a little summary type poster that we'll put up in the classroom and that you can have in your folder. So the idea of this is that you would watch this video, you do the reading, any note taking you need to do, and answer those questions, so then we can come in and discuss the answer in the next theory lesson.